Okay, what we're doing here is going to prepare this area here to solidify this movement in the wall. And we've got 3 different sections in this particular area. This crack follows from the ceiling, not quite to the floor. This one here looks like it follows along a seam between 2 pieces of lath, and it moves it together. Now the reason these are moving together and this one's not is there's a binder in this plaster we didn't discuss earlier, and that's very hard to see this here. It's actually animal hair, and that's what they use for binder in the plaster on a base coat if it's a multiple coat plaster. And this I still have not been able to tell. I do believe it's 2 coats, but anyway, that binder is what's holding that to move together. So there must be enough hair crossing the bridge, which is good for solidification, whereas this is vertical. It's just not the case. It's much tighter down here, so there may be some, but up in here it's actually taking a lot of water. That's part of the discoloring here. So I'm just going to demonstrate what we do there. And this is a dust shroud to keep the dust away from me, and I am not wearing glasses or a respirator because we're not really doing anything but demonstrating right now. I will drill 1 or 2 holes, but that's it. What this does is just a handy dandy little box with a slide lever on it so that I can drill through the middle and keep the dust going into the vacuum. It works pretty darn good. I mean, I have homemade versions made out of recycled containers that work as well, but basically what I'm going to do is look for a line, like we know this is one, of a joint. I want to get a hole there so that the glue will go down behind and key behind the lath. And so I'm only using a 5/16 1/4-inch hole. The glue that sticks to that hole and what squeezes between it and the lath is all that's going to reattach that. So I really like it if it would key like the plaster does behind the lath. And that's the purpose of having these spaces in the lath, is for the plaster to push behind and hold from the back. That's the reason this is still up here. Once that key breaks, then this starts happening in big pieces for. So I would just strategically grab a few spots. I know that's going to work, so I'm going to drill 6 holes right here, right now, and we'll see how that goes. You know, I went through, so I know I got through the crack. The next one up, I can tell here because we have a hole. I know I'm going to get it right there. That went through. So then I would come over here and I will push this down. You can see how much dust comes off that without the vacuum. So if I'm going to do 20 or 30 holes, it's quite a bit of dust. Here I'm going to guess. Now that one, that's how you gauge where you're at. I'm hitting lath, and if I put this down and use the drill bit as a depth gauge on that, I'm going in about 1/2 inch. So there's probably about 1/2 inch of space, or 1/4 to 3/8 space, 1/4 to 3/8 of plaster where I'm hitting. So I know there's a void in there that I'm going to be pushing a lot of adhesive into. That could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. I could squeeze a whole tube of adhesive in there for 1 hole. So a lot of times when I have a full room to do, I'm buying the big tubes and the big caulking gun because I'm going to be using a lot of adhesive. The goal here isn't to use a lot of adhesive. The goal is to just get this glued back to the lath. This is an oscillating tool. This one's German. It's made by Fine. Festool makes one. Everybody makes them now. You can buy them at Harbor Freight for 20 bucks. So it basically is a diamond masonry blade for cutting tile grout. and it works perfect for this too. They come in different configurations. This one's round. I have some that are square. I have some that are all the abrasives on the flat, and that would be handy for like taking that off if I wanted to. But for doing cracks, I just use this round one. That way I'm not digging into the wood and cutting the wood. You could use wood blades. They will work and they wear out real quick, but you also run the risk of cutting through the lath. So that we don't want to do. We don't have to. So basically I'm cutting in at an angle this way and then back this way at an angle that way, so that I have a dovetail. It looks like this, so that the material, when it's pushed in there, is pulling back on the plaster. When I squeeze that all in there, well, this will be back tight. It's not going to fall out, because this, more than likely, this crack has been here for 100 years. We'll just put a round number on it, it's 100. Is it going to come back? Not this bad, because we're going to glue it back in. There might be a hairline like this show up here in 10 years or 20 years. I don't know. If there's something going on with the structure here, like say the stud, there's a stud right here we can see. Maybe this is because it's in between two studs and there's a lot of movement here. Or there's another stud right here that's loose and it has a lot of play. We had a lot of water come in here at one point, so we really don't know what's going on back there. So this is just a superficial, keep the wall in place fix. So we have, just a quick review, the holes that are glued, that are drilled for the adhesive, lined up with the slots between the lath so that we get the adhesive to key behind. And some will invariably fall on the lath, which is fine. So we do that, we drill, prep, grind the slot out, and then we clean all this with alcohol and water, and then we're ready to glue it and clamp it with screws and washers. So what we're going to do now is to clean this lath. This is actually pretty clean, but there's still dirt in the rest of these, and we vacuumed them. So what we're going to do is put in, this is a 50-50 of alcohol and water, and I have two different vessels depending on the size of the hole. This will work great here like this. I can do this and go down the crack and get some in there. What the alcohol, the difference just using water versus alcohol is it cuts to dust. I mean, you can even see what's happening on the surface here. It's all slimy. That's lime wash. So anyway, this is too big. I can do these, but this works better on the small holes and I don't get as much on the surface. Except for real tiny ones. As long as we get some back in there so we get something clean, that's what we're after. It also doubles as pre-wetting the surface so that the adhesive doesn't get dry too fast. And in areas here that I will put a little adhesive in these larger areas, but in areas that don't, it's just going to be plaster. We will wet again before we patch, because again, that's the suction. These big areas here, I'll probably dab with a little bit of the pink plaster weld, which is again an emulsified latex bonding agent. Just for review, I'm using a Loctite heavy duty, they call it Power Grab. The acrylics are better than the oil-based. They tend to, you didn't hear that from me. I'm always oil-based everything, but the acrylics do work better. So I'm just squeezing in some until I see it, and I leave it. Sometimes I'll angle it that way if I think I'm close to the crack, which I know that one is. If I can see it in the hole, I will leave it there. I won't go with any more than that. Because these drywall screws have a pretty sharp point on them. So I'm going to start right about.
And you're trying to screw them into the lath, right?
Correct. So I'm going to go here. We may have to drill some holes. Whatever they went over this with, there it goes. Now, that's why I gauge, I can see my squeeze out. That's it right there. There's a joint right here. So I'll just leave that there for now. Go a little bit higher. That's fine. See that pull? You just watch the adhesive in the hole. Pull a little bit. And here, I'm going to come back here with that. Yep. See that? Suck that right in.
Yeah.